everybody, and welcome to Generally Speaking, the podcast that bridges the worlds of pop culture and personal development. I'm your host, Jennifer Snook. I am so happy to be here with you today. We have a lot to talk about, you guys. We have Teresa, we have Tamra, and we're going to get to that. But before we get started, if by chance you're watching this on YouTube, please make sure you reach out and smash that subscribe button. If you're listening on your favorite streaming platform, please make sure you reach out and give us a follow. Thank you very much. Okay, you guys, let's get into it. You guys, you know what we need to talk about because I just watched it. I know I'm a little behind and everyone else already has, but we need to talk about monsters because, oh my God, the story of those Menendez brothers. I mean, I remember that story so well. That was such a part of pop culture when I was, a young adult. So it is really seared into my memory, just the whole dynamic, the whole drama that went along with that whole thing. It is wild. But I mean, the show was so good, wasn't it? It was so riveting. It is maybe one of the only things I can remember recently that has really held my attention, and I haven't fallen asleep during, but it was just so good. I thought the acting was impeccable. Everyone was so good. Why can't I say his name? Javier Bardem. Okay. I don't know what's wrong with me, but Javier Bardem. Anyway, was amazing. I mean, wasn't he just incredible? And I mean, what a monster he played. That guy was just such a maniac, but you really saw the way it was so generational and clearly the way that he was brought up too. But yeah, Javier was amazing. The guy that played Lyle was amazing. And the guy that played Eric is a guy named Cooper Koch, who my middle daughter, actually all of my daughters went to high school, but Taylor and Cooper have been really close for a lot of years. And I'm just so happy to see his success. He was amazing. The Beverly Hills looks are out, you guys. Have you seen them? I don't know. It just seems to me like they're clearly running out of ideas. I feel like the whole theme of it was supposed to be like, the whole diamonds are a girl's best friend kind of vibe, but it just felt dated and just boring to me, quite frankly. All of those pastels, and the only one that I was really into was Erica. I thought Erica was hands down the best of the bunch, but she is a 901 girl, you guys, so it makes sense. Kyle was sporting a big pink choker. I'm not into chokers at all, let alone a big pink satin one. And I'm really just hoping that this season we can get a more authentic Kyle because I don't know. It seems like that girl is still just hiding her big secret out in public. And I just don't understand why. I don't understand why she leaves heart eyes and hearts and all this love stuff all over Morgan's page, all over her Instagram page, but is hiding her while they're on safari together. They're clearly on safari together. And you've got Morgan like hiding in a picture. Like, what's the secret? Just own your shit. Be out there. I mean, these guys have been together for a while now. I've been telling you about them. A very good friend of mine is a designer here in LA, and they were in her showroom. Gosh, I mean, before my dad died. So it's been just over 2 years that my dad's been gone, and they were together before that. So anyway, now we talk about Teresa, everybody, because it's been a minute, right? So now I know that things have not been confirmed. Nothing's been confirmed by Bravo. But the fact of the matter is, we all know that Teresa is not going to be asked back for this upcoming season. She's just not. We know that, Bravo knows that, and it seems like that realization might finally be cracking through Teresa's thick skull. I mean, you know that Louis and Teresa love to live the high life, but between his failed businesses and bankruptcies and Teresa's hefty housewife's paychecks drying up, I'm telling you, the dynamic duo is really getting desperate for some dollars. I mean, just a couple weeks ago, she was on her Instagram promoting some get-rich sweep. I cannot speak today, you guys. Some get-rich-quick sweepstakes. In her video, she says, "Who's ready to level up in this economy? It's time to stop dreaming about more money and actually making more money. We're talking about getting rich and stacking that cash and living large." So here's the tea. And then she goes on and encourages them to sign up for some sweepstakes that guarantees them absolutely nothing, but collects all of their information. And I looked up this company called, what are they called? And I looked up this company called workmoney.org. And quite frankly, nobody has anything nice to say about them at all. And the overarching headline about this company was deceptive advertising practices. I mean, which is just right on brand for them, right? And if that wasn't enough, you guys, there's more. There's the come party with Teresa at the beach brunch. There's the drag brunch. I mean, if you're having a brunch, Teresa will be there for a price. And then she just started a TikTok, and her and Gia were hawking handbags yesterday. So, I mean, clearly they are hard up for money. But here was the real kicker, you guys. And here is how you know that Teresa knows. And she is doing everything she can to change the fate of her future. So this weekend, someone in her camp, you guys, called the paparazzi, which they don't even really have in New Jersey, right? But this weekend they were there, and they seem to have a very specific script. And they just so happened to catch Teresa and Gia getting out of their car in a random parking lot and walking towards a restaurant, a very specific restaurant. And the exchange went something like this. The reporter asks, "What are you guys doing over here?" And Teresa goes, "What does it look like we're doing?" And then Gia goes, "We're checking out a restaurant." And he goes, "Nice, nice. And what's the restaurant going to be for?" And Teresa parrots back, "What's the restaurant going to be for? It's going to be ours. We're going to run it to keep our family legacy going." He goes, "Awesome, awesome." Gia says, "Yeah, hold on to the family traditions. You know, my mom has 3 cookbooks. There's lots of recipes. So we want to use this for the restaurant." And the reporter says, "Nice, nice." And Teresa goes, "I mentioned it on House of Villains. Have you been watching?" And the reporter goes, "No, I have to catch up. But I would just like to say I'm caught up. And if you're caught up too, then you know that just last week, Teresa made one of her famous family dinners for everybody. So everybody sits down and the dinner looks beautiful, but everybody is choking it down. And one of the contestants even called it a salt lick. They all said it was horrible. So I'm just really not sure how this whole restaurant thing is actually going to fly. I mean, Teresa on her podcast, when she was talking to Chanel Ayan, she didn't even know what brisket was, you guys. So I'm just really not sure how this whole restaurant thing is going to play out. I mean, would you go to the restaurant? Would you go to Teresa's restaurant? That's what I want to know. If you'd go to Teresa's restaurant, please leave it in the comments. Let me know if you would go. And also, here's what else I want to dial down on. What would she name it? Teresa's Trattoria? Leave your thoughts about what it should be called in the comments too. I'm sure we're going to come up with some funny shit. And you know, the truth is, Teresa really thought that after she married Louis, her life was going to be all smooth sailing. But it's been just over 2 years that they've been married. And not only has he cost her her only brother, but he cost her her job. And as evidenced by her activity lately, that lack of paycheck has sent everybody scrambling. I mean, Teresa's pounding the pavement harder than she ever has. And it's only because she has to. You know she'd rather be on vacation somewhere. That's a fact. Speaking of Louis and Teresa, you guys, Louis's ex Vanessa, you know Vanessa. I mean, she has been in the news. I mean, synonymous with Louis and Teresa. It's Vanessa that is the psychotherapist, and Louis sent the fake patient in. Do you remember all that? Anyway, Vanessa has written a book, like I said, and she is going to be on Generally Speaking. We've been emailing and texting today. We're just trying to figure out a date, so look forward to that. We're going to have Vanessa on. We'll talk about Louis, talk about the book, talk about it all. And while we're talking about New Jersey, if you haven't heard, Bill Aiden apparently doesn't want Jen participating anymore. He's not into it, but he allows her to indulge herself. But if he had his way, she would not be participating. Speaking of couples, Tom and Ariana, you guys have finally decided to put that house on the market, that house that's been like an albatross around the neck of their relationship for so long now. Also, you guys, Southern Charm is back, and I am so excited. I mean, I feel excited that I'm going to have a break from Housewives, quite frankly, and dive into a whole nother group. And I love the Southern Charm group. I really do. I think they are so fun. So sad to hear that Michael the butler passed away. I mean, that's a total bummer. Also really bummed that we lost Taylor and we had to keep, sorry, not lost Taylor. We kept Taylor and we got rid of Olivia, but I thought it should have been the other way around. I really dug Olivia. I thought Olivia was great. And she even came out and said that it wasn't her choice to leave the show, that she basically got let go, which I just don't get that. I don't get that at all. The same way I don't get, remember Mike from Shaws of Sunset, you guys? Mike from Shaw's, what a douche. Anyway, Mike now wants to be a life coach. A lot happened with Mike that I wasn't aware of. I don't know. I clearly wasn't paying attention during this time, but apparently he had all kinds of domestic violence drama with his ex, the one that he was engaged to. Um, he beat the shit out of her. I mean, I saw the video. It was outrageous. And now he wants to be a life coach, you guys. Isn't that hilarious? I could not believe it. So the article was hilarious. They're like, Mike wants to be a life coach. And then right underneath it was that video of him just beating the hell and terrorizing, I can't remember her name, but the one that had 2 kids. Do you remember that? And anyway, it was like a full-on Diddy scale attack. I mean, he went after her and that was horrible. And anyway, what in God's name is he doing? Acting like he's gonna, he's in any position to teach men how to be real men when clearly he is anything but that. Ugh, gross. I was actually at a party with him once. It was a party for $1 Million Listing, and we were at a beautiful house up in the Holmby Hills. So, so beautiful. But he was there, and I mean, to call him obnoxious seems kind, honestly. He was, oh, no, thank you. You know those people whose energy you can just feel and you're just like, no, he just felt so fake and so put on and so try hard. I wasn't into it. Wasn't into it at all. But here's what I was into, you guys. Salt Lake City, it is time for reality check. Let's do it. So the show opens with Angie's Greek hitman passing out invitations to her 25th wedding anniversary. And when Lisa gets hers, she tells her husband that she's surprised that she got one, but relieved about it. She also tells him that Angie says she's a bad mom. And her son happened to overhear what she said, and he was quick to remind her that that is not true, that she is not a bad mom. He also reminds his mom that it's the day that they're supposed to call Jack, Lisa's oldest, who's been sick while away in Colombia on his mission. But when they FaceTime Jack, he's actually at what he refers to as the finest dining establishment in all of Colombia, and he's enjoying a burger and fries. So I'm not sure how sick he can really be. Then Meredith meets up with Whitney, and Whitney says that since Milwaukee, she's been seeing things a little differently, and therefore wants to apologize to Meredith for coming at her the way she did. Meredith accepts her apology and thanks her for her accountability. Whitney says, it's clear to me that someone is trying to hurt me. Meredith says, I have to wonder who you think that is. And Whitney says, I think it's Lisa. And Meredith asks, how, why do you think that? And Whitney proceeds to tell her how she reached out to someone who knows the account. And then they flash back to Whitney on the phone with that person. Do you remember when she was in the car with her husband driving? Meredith tells Whitney that she thinks that she needs to talk to Lisa and that she does not want to be in the middle of it. Then we're at Mary's house, and while we're waiting for Bronwyn to arrive, we see another very telling interaction between her and her son, Robert Jr., and his pretend wife. Those two are skulking up the stairs, clearly in the throes of some shit, and there is just no hiding it. There's really not. Mary asks him why he stopped answering his phone, and he says, oh, I don't know, your calls must have not come through, slurring his words. Mary says Robert Jr. has changed big time since this girl has come into his life. This girl. She says that he leans towards her now, and she wishes that he would still lean towards her because she obviously has his best interest at heart. Then Bronwyn shows up carrying an orchid arrangement the size of a small island. Bronwyn loves Mary's blue kitchen, which I personally can't stand, but I do love me some Mary Cosby. I cannot get enough of her this season. I've said it before. I'm going to keep saying it. Mary asks Bronwyn what she's been up to, and Bronwyn spills everything that's been going on with her and her daughter and that whole situation with her daughter's dad's family. And right away, Mary says that she can relate because her son doesn't know her mother, because Mary's mother was a nightmare, apparently, according to Mary. And then, I mean, Mary goes on and on about her mom and how abusive she was. And it really provides some insight, again, as to why Mary is the way Mary is. Mary says that her mom was all about herself, and she always was. She says that her mom was never present, that she didn't even buy food. And she says, it's not that we couldn't afford it. She just didn't buy it. Then Bronwyn tells Mary that she's excited to go to Angie's, but nervous to see Heather. She says that she's on the cusp of being done with this bullshit, which, hello, what? You're on the cusp of being done with this bullshit? What are we, 4 episodes in? We just met you. How can you be on the cusp of anything? Bronwyn says that Heather repeated something to Lisa about Angie, and Mary says, well, Heather can be very two-faced. I've said that for years. The two of them are deep in conversation about their group dynamic when they're suddenly interrupted by a blast from the past. Mary's landline ringing. Yeah, I mean, it was like it was 1996 all over again. Bronwyn can't believe what she's hearing, just cracking up. Then it's party time, finally, and we see all the ladies getting ready like we always do. Whitney tells her glam team that she's going for Mob Wives Cut a Bitch because she's going to see Lisa Barlow, and she's a little nervous about it. Everyone arrives wearing their big fur because, mob wives. When Meredith arrives at the party, she gives Sean a big hug. He gives her a big welcome. And then they flash back to him saying that he never wanted her in his house ever again. After Meredith greets the girls, she turns to Whitney and says, we need to talk. You need to handle this thing with Lisa because I don't like it. And Whitney says, I will. I'm planning on it. And Meredith says, good. And you'll feel better. Whitney says, trust me, I do not like feeling like this. And then right on cue, Lisa walks in and right over to Heather. And the two of them are comparing outfits when Angie says in confessional, things are definitely a little tense between me and Lisa right now, but I'm glad she's here. Otherwise, I would have been hurt, and it definitely would have been the beginning of the end. And right at that moment, another couple walks through that door. And it's Brittany with some guy named Aaron that Heather clearly knows and knows intimately. Brittany says that when her and Jared are broken up, she calls Aaron, and sometimes other guys too, sometimes 3 in a night. Brittany says that she is a busy lady. Meanwhile, Heather's skull is spun because it seems very clear that when this guy Aaron isn't hanging out with Brittany, he's calling Heather. I mean, the whole thing is very Peyton Place. Heather says that her and Aaron go way back, way back. And suddenly this whole episode feels less housewives and way more sister wives. Then Mary walks up to Meredith, eyes bugging on a 10, and says, hi, Jared. And Meredith says, no, that's not Jared, that's Aaron. But Mary doesn't even believe it because these guys really did look alike. Then Angie and her dad both do a toast to 25 years, and the two of them are honestly so sweet together. That man is an obvious saint. He raised 7 kids after his wife died, and they all just have such reverence for him. It's so sweet. Then Mei Lee gets there, and once again, so cute, so adorable, but still not much to say. Bronwyn pulls Angie aside for a big congratulations, and then she dives into all the drama. She tells Angie that she saw Lisa and that Lisa is very hurt and upset about what she heard from Heather, which was that you, Angie, said she was a bad mom. Then Bronwyn says, it just feels like Heather starts little fires and then backs away from them. And Angie says, well, I definitely don't like that Heather did that. And then they cut to Brittany and her boy Aaron canoodling. She's telling him that she's so happy that she's here, and he says, me too. As Lisa and Mary are talking about Heather, Heather walks up and asks what they're talking about, and they both say, you. And Mary turns to Heather and says, everywhere you drop and everywhere you stop, it's a lie. And Heather says, that's extremely hurtful, Mary. And Mary says, well, then stop doing it. Heather says, don't push me. I've been a good friend. Mary says, ask God. He knows. Then in confessional, Heather says, arguing with Mary is like arguing with the Mormon church. You're going to get gaslit. They're going to tell you that what you're saying isn't true. And they're going to tell you that they never hurt you. But she has been horrible to me, and I didn't forget. Those two are totally going at it. They're pulling the focus, and everyone is low-key paying attention to what they're saying. They finally end their fighting, and Mary goes off and plops herself on a couch. Now, this, you guys, was so epic. She just goes over and sits next to these two, 12-year-olds and says, you, that was a big argument. Made my feet start hurting. Women. I think I'm okay with Heather now. I mean, I could keep going, but I'm not. I'm going to let it go. And then she starts manic laughing in front of these two girls that are staring at her, not knowing what the hell she's even talking about. Then we cut over to Angie telling Heather that Bronwyn just filled her in on the fact that she thinks Heather is playing go-between her and Lisa and planting narratives that just aren't true to stir up shit between them. And Heather says, that's not the case at all. And then she says, but you have been saying all kinds of crazy stuff about Lisa and you mom shamed her. It just feels like things have shifted between you two and you just no longer have her back. And then they both walk over to Bronwyn and Heather says, a fly. Why are you getting involved in my relationship with Angie? And Bronwyn says, well, it really shocked me that you told Lisa something that she was probably just venting to you about. Heather says, we are very dear friends, and for you to be in her ear is out of line. And Bronwyn says, Heather wants to look like the good guy, but she's super messy. So Heather turns around and starts to walk away, and as she is, she says to the guy that's walking through the door, hey, what's up? And lo and behold, the guy that was actually walking through the door was none other than Jared the Cheeseball Osmond. You know, the former best friend booty call of Brittany. And when Brittany sees him, you guys, she loses her shit completely. It's full put your hands over your head drama. Everyone starts wondering what he's doing there. Lisa asks who invited him, and Brittany says, I have no idea. I didn't. What the hell? And then Whitney pipes up and says, Justin did. Justin did it. He was trying to be nice. And then they cut to Justin giggling like the cat who ate the canary. Oh my God, he knew exactly what he was doing. Brittany goes into a full-blown slow motion breakdown, and across the room, Jared asks Angie if he's causing a stir. Am I causing a stir? Because I didn't mean to. Back over in Brittany's corner, the tears are brimming over and she's clutching her pearls, and I do mean literally. Lisa looks at her and says, if I were you, I'd ask him to leave. Then she grabs Brittany's hand and walks her over to Jared and says, hi, we're shocked to see you. And he says, are you shocked to see me? I didn't mean to interrupt your date. Brittany asks him if he'd like to go outside and talk, and he says, if you'd like to. So the two of them walk outside and she says, why are you here? And he says, well, the charcuterie looked fantastic. She tells him that it just makes her so much more confused. And he says, I didn't come here to start drama. I have no expectations. I'm not here to break up your date. I came here honestly because I missed you. And she says, this is hard because you know I love you. I'm trying to move on, but then you show up. And he says, would you like me to leave? And she says, no. And then he says, you've got a date here. Come on, let's go inside. Back inside, Whitney confronts Lisa about what she thinks she knows. She asks her about the necklace that got left behind in the hotel room. Lisa says it was an accident. And then Whitney tells her that she knows that she was the one who started the Alibaba rumors. Lisa says, I did not DM that account, and I'm going to sue whoever said it. And then to camera, Lisa says, girl, you are gullible. Maybe if you actually made your own jewelry, you wouldn't have time to sit around and spread these lies. Then she picks up her phone and calls her security guy, Sean, and tells him that she needs this situation investigated immediately. She wants to start an investigation on whoever is saying this, and she wants the police involved, the Los Angeles police and the Salt Lake City police, and she wants to go the distance. And then Whitney says, the fact that Lisa is freaking out like this just proves that she's guilty. And then, spoiler alert, everybody, on the after show, which you have to watch because that's where all the really great juice is, like this that I'm about to tell you. On the after show, we find out that that dingling Jared actually has a small dingling, which is probably a big part of why he's a dingling, right? So now we're heading over to Orange County, everybody, and this episode begins with Heather Dubrow trying to broker a little peace between Tamra and Jen, who is still screaming at Tamra that she doesn't have a soul. Heather tells Jen, listen, everything that you're talking about happened like 2 years ago, and you seem to be overlooking the part that Shannon played. And Jen's still screaming at Tamra, and she says, you need to be careful. That mouth of yours has gotten you into trouble before. And then she turns around and storms out, this time for good. Then Tamra turns to Heather and explains that a couple years ago, a guy at the gym came up to her and said, I can't believe that Ryan guy has the nerve to show his face around here after he got named in that lawsuit about selling timeshares in another country and stealing the HOA fees. Tamra says that she sent the information to Shannon and that Shannon went nuts when she saw it because Leslie Bedore's ex-husband was also named in this lawsuit. And Leslie Bedore, you guys, is David Bedore's current wife. So you know that Shannon wanted all the dirt that she could get. She said that Shannon asked her if she had anyone that could look into it, and Tamra said she could ask her friend's husband, who was an attorney. And then Tamra says that there's no way Shannon showed her the entire text thread, because if she had, she would have easily seen that Shannon instigated it. Then Heather breaks the tension and goes, well, she really looked good. I mean, did you see her stomach? It looked amazing. I actually have stomach envy. And Tamra says, yeah, it was a really good tummy tuck. And Heather says, don't talk about that. And Tamra goes, why? She does. That's why she doesn't have a belly button. Then we see Jen arrive at Katie's door, upset about everything that just went down with Tamra. Katie can see the panic in her face, and she knows she's upset, so she says, let's go have a drink. Then Shannon meets up with her two very hungover daughters who have taken the train from Paris to London to see their mom for her 60th birthday, which must have been so exciting for Shannon to see her daughters there. I mean, what a respite for her, to be able to step away from all that tension with the ladies and just be with her kids. I can't imagine. The three of them sit down for lunch. The girls ask Shannon how it's been going with the other women. Shannon tells them it's been terrible with Tamra. And the girls say that they have a toxic relationship, a toxic friendship, shouldn't be like this. Then those two try and change the subject and ask their mom if she's been dating. And Shannon does a Shannon, no, like she's insulted or something. And her daughters say, don't worry, Mom, that's fine. We're both going through dry spells too. While Shannon and her daughters are having lunch, Heather, Tamra, and Gina all meet up for caviar and champagne. And Tamra tells Gina that she got a surprise visit from Jen. And Gina goes, yeah, I know, she's agitated. Then Jen, Emily, and Katie go to a local pub where Jen ordered her old standby a Malibu and Coke, no matter where she is. Once they sit down, she tells them that this morning Shannon showed her all the stuff that Tamra had been digging up on her and Ryan. And Emily says that when Tamra doesn't respect someone, all bets are off. No boundaries, none at all. Back at the other lunch table, Gina says to Tamra, I saw those text messages and this is bad. And if you would do that to her, then would you do that to me? I'm fucking being honest here. And Tamra goes, oh, please. Are you a con man like him? Gina says, this is the problem. And Heather says, I don't condone people digging. I mean, why do you think I was so disgusted with Katie digging up bullshit on me 6 months before she even met me? Then Tamra says to Heather, I want to tell you something. I went to candle making with Katie and our daughters, and her daughter Kylie told me that she babysat for Emily's two young sons, and that while she was babysitting, Katie goes, yeah, listen to this, listen to this. And the daughter says, yeah. And I was like, have you met a lot of your mom's friends? Because my mom is just getting to know them. And the boys said, yeah, but we don't really like Heather. And I was like, what? And they go, yeah, because she's mean to our mom. She's bossy. Then they cut to Emily talking about the same thing, and she says that her sons didn't say that at all, and that it was actually Katie's daughter that made those comments. And of course it was Katie's daughter that made those comments. Those are the comments that would come from a 15-year-old daughter defending her mom, not two 8-year-old boys. And Heather is shocked and disgusted and dismayed as she's hearing all this. She tears up and she says, so you're telling me that Katie said things about me to her daughter, who then went to these little children and said things about me? And then she says, I'm out with her. And to use your child as a megaphone is a whole different kind of insanity. And she's not wrong. And then Tamra says, Katie tries to play like she's really sweet, but she's really just calculated and manipulative. Then we're back in Jen's hotel room where she's getting ready for dinner and telling Ryan about what a soulless bitch Tamra's being to her. And of course he agrees. And then Shannon says so long to her daughters, and then everybody heads to an English dining etiquette class. And along the way, all anybody can talk about is poop, you guys. Poop. I can't take it. Shannon hasn't pooped in days, and she feels like poop because of it. And Emily is apparently having the exact opposite issue. She can't stop shitting. Once the etiquette class is over, Heather says, let's play the pit and the peak. Tamra says that her peak was having champagne and caviar, and that her pit was probably having Jen come to her room this morning and yell at her about something that Shannon had provoked. And Shannon says, you're lying, Tamra. And Tamra says, I'm not lying. You called me. You're a liar and you're a drunk. And everyone instantly gives Tamra the hairy eyeball. And Jen tells Tamra that she needs to stop. And then Tamra says, why are you defending her? And Jen says, in all of the time that I've known her, she's been a better friend to me than you have. I want you to leave me alone, Tamra. I want you to leave Ryan alone. Have you talked about him being a bookie this year, Tamra? Have you talked about a Ponzi scheme? You better shut your mouth. And Tamra says, why? Is he going to put a hit out on me? Then everybody gives Tamra the hairy eyeball for a second time. And Heather looks at her and says, you're not doing yourself any favors talking like that. And Tamra says, I apologized to Jen earlier. But all I was doing back then was having a conversation with the person that used to be my best friend. And I'm not going to let her turn it around and make it look otherwise. And Gina says, that's not what we're doing, Tamra. We're just trying to get you to take responsibility for your own part. So then Tamra turns to Jen and says, what exactly do you need me to take responsibility for? And Jen says, I'm good. And Tamra goes, so then we're good. And Jen goes, no, we're not good at all. What I'm saying is shut your fucking mouth. And Jen's delivery honestly made everybody's nipples hard. Then all the girls get up and go back to their respective rooms. Katie and Jen in one room, Emily, Gina, and Shannon in another, and Heather and Tamra in another. And while we're with Tamra and Heather, Heather talks about the fact that I didn't look at Katie once, not all night. And Tamra says, neither did I. Then she says, last year, Tamra says, last year, Shannon called me before the reunion and said that we needed to get Taylor Armstrong's husband involved because we need to find out if Gina really pushed Travis down the stairs. And Heather screams, what? And Tamra says, yeah, there was this article. And then they flashed the article on the screen. And it said, Gina Kirschenheiner accused of pushing boyfriend Travis downstairs during fight by his ex and putting his kids in constant fear as he files police report. Heather says, did this really happen? And Tamra says, Shannon's mentioned it multiple times. And then Heather says, well, are you going to tell Gina? And Tamra says, I feel like I have to. Then the next morning, the girls all get up and head out. But before Shannon's group can really get going anywhere, they need to deal with Shannon's constipation problem that she's still having. Shannon at this point is crying about the cramps and telling everybody that she needs an enema. So they all split up and commence Operation Enema. Katie, Jen, and Gina are all on the case. Over in the park, Heather, Tamra, and Emily sit down to discuss the shit that was said between Katie's daughter and Emily's sons. Emily is pissed and assures Heather that her kids did not say that, and she goes on to say that she would never, ever, ever say anything negative about Heather in front of her kids. And Heather says, I find this story so incredibly disturbing. She says, but I am not in any way surprised that Katie is attached to it. Heather says, it's obviously a planted bullshit story just designed to attack my character. And then she says, and she's dealing with the wrong person because I'm done. Then we're in the bathroom with Shannon and her enema, and Katie and Emily and Jen, her cheering squad. And it was gross and unnecessary, but very Shannon. A while later, the ladies all meet up for dinner. They make small talk about the royal family, and Heather notices that Shannon kind of has her back turned to her. So she inquires about it and says, hello, why is your back turned? Are you annoyed or something? And Shannon goes, well, can we talk? So the two of them go outside, and Shannon brings up the fact that Heather told the entire group about what Shannon told her. And Heather says, this feels bullshitty. First of all, I already knew the story, and I knew that Tamra knew the story. And Shannon says, that night, I didn't even feel any compassion from you. I thought that maybe you would have come up to me and said, are you okay? Do you need anything? I'm worried about you. How are you doing? And Heather goes, hold on. This feels like a spin job. It feels like you're trying to control the narrative. And Shannon, that is what you do. It's actually reminding me of what you did with David years ago. And Shannon says, I was trying to save my marriage. And Heather says, yeah, of course, I get that. But let's not forget, you also dripped out information about David when it was convenient for you. Then in confessional, Heather says, we all knew that David was having an affair, but I wasn't going to blow up her family on TV. Shannon and I went toe to toe. And then they flash back to one of my all-time favorite scenes when Shannon went knocking on Heather's door in the middle of the night to demand what she knew about who was responsible for spreading the rumors about her marriage. I'm telling you, top 5 ever. So while Shannon and Heather are outside relitigating everything that went down in Sonoma, the rest of the women are at the table. And Tamra says, I was up all night last night because I was so upset. And I was thinking to myself, what was Shannon's motivation? And then I realized it was to turn Jen against me. And then she looked at Gina and said, Hey, if I told you that Shannon dug up information about you and consulted an attorney to find out if you actually threw Travis down the stairs, would you be upset about that? And you should have seen Gina's face, you guys. The changes, the micro dynamic shifts in her face. I mean, a million different thoughts went through her mind and it all played out on her face. The exchange between her and Emily, just in a single glance, was so telling. And then she looked back at Tamra and goes, "Is that what happened?" And Tamra said, "Yes." And then we finally get the real juice about what's been going down with Gina and Travis's ex, who has apparently been spreading vile, vicious, destructive lies about Gina. Gina says that she separated her home away from the love of her life to get away from this woman. Gina says that she can't help the fact that this woman is devoted to ruining her life. She says, and now I feel like I need to defend that because it's been brought up here. And here we are really breaking the fourth wall of it all. Tamra walks over to her and says, "You know, it really hurt my feelings when you said, 'How do I know that you're not going to dig up information on me?' When it was actually your friend Shannon who was digging up all the dirt about whether or not you pushed your boyfriend down the stairs." And Gina says, "Oh, I'm definitely pissed about that, but I'm pissed at you for not telling me." And Tamra mumbles, "I knew she'd blame me." Right about this time, Shannon and Heather are walking back inside. And Gina says, "Yeah, this definitely complicates now. This is a setback. And we have a problem, Shannon." And Shannon had just rolled up, so she didn't know anything that was said before. Shannon says, "What?" And Gina says, "She told me that before the reunion, you were trying to dig up information about me and Travis." And Shannon goes, "Blame me. Blame me. That's right. Just blame me. Screw you, Tamra. Screw you, Tamra Judge." And Tamra says, "I just talked to Taylor about it last night and she confirmed it all." And Shannon goes, "Stop. Just stop. You know what? I'm out. I've had enough. I'll take an Uber." And Shannon gets up. She storms out of the room. And as she's walking out, the waiter is walking in with her birthday cake on a platter, candles lit and all, singing happy birthday to a Shannon who is no longer in the room. And I'm telling you guys, this to me, this is the way OC is supposed to be. Truthfully, I am loving this season. And listen, I know everybody has been coming down so hard on Tamra, but honestly, I think everyone is forgetting the tumultuous history that those two have had. And I really honestly think that their friendship has run its course. I think that Tamra is at the end of her rope with Shannon, and I think she was. And I think there has been so much sympathy for Shannon this season because of the whole Alexis situation that everyone is forgetting just how horrible Shannon was and why Tamra is at that place with her. So right now, I think it just looks like Tamra is piling on to a bad situation because of the Alexis factor. But if the Alexis factor wasn't there, I don't think it would be the same. I think people would be more understanding of Tamra's frustrations and lack of patience with Shannon. But we can get into all of that at a later date. Okay, everybody, I have to go drive an hour now because I have to go pick up my new car and I'm very excited. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. I have loved spending it with you. If you've been watching on YouTube, please make sure you reach out and smash that subscribe button. If you've been listening on your favorite streaming platform, please make sure you give us a follow, give us a 5-star rating, leave a comment. We would love that. Tell your family, tell your friends. If you'd like to reach me on socials, you can find me on TikTok at This Is Generally Speaking. If you'd like to get your hands on some of this adorable Generally Speaking merch, I will leave the link down below. All right, everybody, I hope you have an amazing, amazing week. And until we are together again, stay rooted in love. See you later.